Hi, my name is Ed Boon, creator of Mortal Kombat, and you're listening to This Week in Geek with Mike the Birdman and the rest of the TWIG crew on This Week in Geek.
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I go through the wonderful world of the geekery, the unusual, the strange, and this week, the unusually fun. I'm joined with my good co-host from the wonderful Garden State of New Jersey.
It's Ken from This Anime.
That's right, guys. So we are going into overtime here on TWIG as we have decided to give Alex a little bit of extra time off as he has to deal with some personal stuff. Don't worry, everything's okay. He just has to help out his mom and his Oma a little bit. So he should be back on the show next Sunday. And I don't know, probably we'll just keep this rotating cast of characters here going on the show pretty much until our holiday gift guide, which is coming up so unbelievably fast, I don't want to deal with it. You can't make me. I will be kicking and screaming. My God, Ken, it doesn't stop. Like, I started looking.
It definitely doesn't.
Like, I started looking at all the emails for all the product, and we're starting to get stuff in for the year end. And I'm thinking, okay, I now have to start prioritizing, okay, what's getting reviewed, what's going in the holiday gift guide, what will be considered from early on in the year, because it is September and this is the holiday era for most game publishers, console publishers. If you're in the books, you're going to push your big releases coming out fairly soon. So we got a lot of stuff coming up here on the show. Plus, I start school as of this episode. I should be starting tomorrow, which means I will be beginning my process of graduation. I'm taking one of my compulsories right now. It should be fairly easy. I'm pretty optimistic about it. And then I have one more, and then I'm taking a victory lap, but I will have both my compulsories done probably by the early spring. And then I am done creative writing, and I will have a full diploma in that, so that'll be exciting. Speaking of exciting things, we most often talk about what we do here during our weeks here on TWIG. And this week has actually been something extra special for me. So, as a lot of you know, I live in the wonderful city of Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and I've been getting a lot of media play this past summer. I've been quoted in the newspaper, I've been on local television. I get around and I record a lot of TikToks, I do Instagrams, I do Twitter, and I'm always out exploring my community. So, this past 2 weeks, I've kind of decided I really want to see what more is out there. Since I've had my bariatric surgery, I've got a lot more freedom of movement to get out in my wheelchair. And things I used to do when I was younger is I used to follow an OHL team called the Owen Sound Attack when I used to live back in Owen Sound before I moved off to college. And I had a lot of fun with that. And when I was in college, I had a media badge and I covered the Niagara Ice Dogs before that team moved to its new city. So I reached out to the local OHL club which is the Guelph Storm. And these guys won a Memorial Cup a couple of years ago. And I called their media people, say, hey, I'm a community-based podcast. I mean, Twig has been around for like 15 years, and I really want to see what things are like. Like, I really want to get a chance to know my community, and maybe we can have some players on the show, because I'm sure there are dorks who play hockey. And fortunately, they were like, yeah, why don't you come on out to a game? In fact, why don't you come out to every home game this year? And I'm like, what? So I was so blown away, and I was so nervous. So I went into some of the local Facebook groups. I'm like, okay, guys, I've never been to this center. Like, the last time I was at the arena for these guys, I was working for Rogers Television, and I covered the Canadian National Curling Championships back in like 2004 or something. And I had no idea where I was going. So like Guelph like stepped its game up, and they're like, okay, you need to go here, 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 and here. I'm like, well, what's at the concession stands? I've got a very specialized diet for a few more months. I'm like, what can I have? What's the vibe like? Because not every arena has the same vibe when you go to a game. And I'm like, what do I do? Is there like a 50-50 draw? And because I'm that guy, where do I buy merch? And they answered all my questions. And so I went to the arena on Friday night, which booking a cab, I ran into so many problems on Friday night. I was really worried I was actually going to be late for a puck drop. Now, it was only an exhibition game, but I got there about 10 minutes beforehand. I'm driving my chair around, and I'm like driving around like a chicken with my head cut off. I was so flustered. But I met somebody from the front office, a really nice lady named Lindsay, and she took me up to my seat. And Ken, it was the coolest thing, because I'm up on the third level. I can see right down the ice. I'm right behind. I was right behind the Oshawa goaltender. We were playing the Oshawa Generals, and it was just one of the nicest arenas I've ever been into. And like, there's this netting so you don't get hit in the head with a puck, and I've seen that happen way back when, before they started implementing safety nets at games. And it was just really, really, really cool to see OHL hockey. Like, and for those of you listening at home, think of it as the AHL or the junior leagues for hockey. So kids that are not ready for the NHL yet, but this is where they get drafted from. Like, they might say, hey, we like that guy from the London Knights. We like that guy from the Ottawa 67s or whatever. And they would get drafted to whatever team, be it the Leafs, the Bruins, the Capitals, whoever. And it was just really cool to see these kids come out and play. Now, the arena wasn't like filled to capacity because it's just an exhibition game, but everybody there was just having like a really, really, really good time. We did lose. We lost 4-3, but we did manage to tie it up by the beginning of the third period. And it was just so nice. Everybody was like really good by like holding doors open for me. I had a member of the staff come by, and for those of you who live in Canada, a girl named Lynn came over, and she was wearing an Every Child Matters pin. And in Canada on September 30th, we acknowledge the residential school tragedy that happened in this country involving Indigenous children. And we talked about that for just a couple of minutes. And I was really pleased that turns out one of the local Indigenous charities or outreach groups has a hockey game coming up later on in the year. And that's the same group that is sponsoring one of my educational pursuits right now. So that meant a lot to me, just to see that level of community involvement. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to being a part of this hockey club as time goes on. Unfortunately, one of our guys got hurt during the game. I think he got cross-checked or got hit somehow. He got taken off the ice. He was one of our goaltenders. So hopefully he's okay. But yeah, it was just a fairly fun time. That crowd really got into it when like people scored, and it reminded me a lot of when I was younger, and I'm just very, very, very thrilled. And then finally, I contacted another community organization, and they run the Guelph Jazz Festival. and that'll be happening next week. So I get to see a bunch of really cool concerts here in the city. And the main reason I wanted to see this is because Netflix had Cowboy Bebop, which came out last year, which I still think it's a crime we're not getting a season 2. And Yoko Kanno did the score for that series, and that's the first time I really appreciated jazz was when the original anime aired in the 1990s. And I've always kind of kept an ear to anything strange jazz-like, because you think of all the pop culture stuff that involves jazz. So we're looking at Cowboy Bebop, Commander Riker from Star Trek, and I guess to a lesser extent Star Trek kind of Voyager. And I just like, this is interesting, and I've never heard it performed live. And considering how interesting I've gotten into certain things, like you'd never would consider me a poet. I go to Guelph spoken word, which is like slam poetry, and I didn't think that would be as much fun as it is. This is something else to explore. So I'm really glad my community is opening up to me, and I will probably be talking about this more often than not here on the show. But yeah, so that has been my week. Oh, final thing, they're fixing my wheelchair. I might not die. So I should find out more in the next couple of days. The technician looked at my chair and went, holy shit, yeah, we are getting on this today. So we will come and grab this thing on Monday. So anyway, Ken, I've been yipping for like 10 minutes. What have you been doing this past week?
Well, in the 2 weeks that I haven't been on the show, let's see. I got addicted to two fucking card games. One of which is a Shadowverse game that's on the Switch that I got for $20. Actually, less than that because I had a coupon. And that is a fun game, and it has Persona-like elements to it, which was really surprising. And like, I've sunk 15, 16 hours into that game and barely scratched the surface. And then just recently, because of D23 and all the gaming stuff, as well as the stuff that we're going to talk about in the news, they launched the beta for Marvel Snap, which is the mobile card game from Hearthstone creator Ben Brode and his new company. When he left Blizzard, he created a new company, and this is what they've been working on, which is a Marvel-based card game. And it's a pretty fun card game. It's pretty light, simple. There's a lot of currencies and microtransaction stuff in it, so it's kind of expected. But overall, the game is fun and pretty light in terms of what you can spend on. Basically, a lot of the microtransaction stuff is just like alternate card art and stuff like that. And then like they have a season pass that's $10. Not the worst thing in the world. And overall, like, it's a fun mobile game. The one thing I will say, if you have data caps on your mobile phone, yeah, not a game you should get, because that thing downloads consistently. Like, there's a lot of stuff that it downloads periodically throughout the time that you're playing it. Mm-hmm. It'll download like 3 megabytes worth of assets every so often whenever you upgrade a card, as it were, because the whole concept is you upgrade the card so it goes from the card will pop out of the frame of the card, and then it'll turn into a 3D card, and so on and so forth. It just gets more drastically different and more dynamic, as it were.
Kind of reminds me of that WWE super card that like you can play on mobile, and it would do kind of the same thing. It would evolve, and you get like all this player animation and all that stuff. So, yeah. All right, man. So that's... And then
also I had to deal with the hellscape that is our friggin' postal system here in the States. the fact that my post office is literally the friggin' worst. So I ordered something for my dad because his birthday was Friday. And I'm like, okay, the thing's scheduled to deliver on Wednesday. Wednesday goes by. Nope. Thursday goes by. Nope. Friday goes by. Nope. And I look at the tracking. It's been sitting in the post office for 3 fucking days. So yeah,
Lame.
I'm mad.
Yeah, I recently had a problem with like our postal service. I ordered something off of Facebook, and this guy had shipped me a Transformers Red figure that I've been looking for since the line launched. It was the original Optimus Prime, and I passed him up like 2 years ago, and I found him at a really, really, really good deal. I talked him down to a good price. Cool. Ordered it. Never showed up, yet it says it was delivered. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. I'm home all day. I'm in a wheelchair. Believe me, I don't go anywhere some days. And I hear the door because I'm not more than like 10 feet from it. And I figure the postal guy was like lazy. He threw it in our front lobby and somebody took it, which has happened more often than I'd like to admit. And fortunately, though, the post office, after I worked with the seller, we were able to get Canada Post to agree, like, yep, we're going to replace it. We'll send you a check in a couple of weeks. So I will get my Optimus Prime sooner or later. So yeah, I can relate to postal issues. They suck. But guys, we've got a fantastic packed show for you this week. Obviously, the big news this week will be D23, which happened this past weekend. There's a lot of trailers and news to come out of that. Me and Ken will be talking about that pretty extensively. We have a defamation lawsuit, which has been settled. We're going to be talking about, oh man, what else are we going to be talking about this weekend? We have so
Pokemon
much
dropped stuff.
Yep, we got that dropped. We have, did you know the Joker's got a real name? Do you want to know what it is? Do you really care? I guess we will be talking about that here on the show. We have reviews coming to us for more of my back to school role playing guide, because hey, you know what? You got to find some fellow geeks and dweebs to play some games with you. I will be talking about Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, which is a wonderful set of adventures that you can set in your D&D world and how to integrate them into your game. We're also going to be taking a look. Well, let's say you don't necessarily want to get outside and you want to enjoy your new PlayStation 5. We're going to be taking a look. Alex took a look at this earlier in the year. I'm going to be taking a look at the PlayStation Plus premium tier stuff. Is it worth your time to compete against Xbox Game Pass? I think the answer may just surprise you. And then Alex has his review of something I think he received that is a television show, but I'm not 100% sure. So we will be looking at that at the end of the show. So let's not waste any time. Let us grab our adventuring gear, prepare to load up, grab those healing potions, and it's time for us to take a look at something from our friends over at Wizards of the Coast. We will be back here only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Ken. We'll be back, guys, right after this. Hey guys, Mike the Birdman here, back with my back-to-school role-playing game guide. This week, we're going to be taking a look at something coming to us from Wizards of the Coast. They sent over a copy of Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. And what this is a series of adventures for player characters 1 to level 14. And what this place is a place that exists in the ethereal plane known as the Radiant Citadel. And it's basically this giant floating island where there's a central thing called the Auroral Diamond. And the place is just so incredibly strange and wonderful that I love the idea behind this. Basically, there were these lost civilizations. I think they numbered 27. And so many of them have been restored back, and they all make their homes here because they've been displaced from their homelands, or at least severely depleted. And there are other missing civilizations out there. Maybe one day you'll find them, but they exist as these amalgamations of spirits that are made out of gemstones. So there's like this obsidian eagle, there's like a fish made out of like this really precious stone, there's like all sorts of really strange things. And the cool thing that kind of unites all this is the Citadel gives you the ideas for how these places can fit into your particular game. Like, for example, they might say, hey, this might be existing near Chult, or this might be somewhere in the Trackless Sea, and it's sort of where you can set the adventure in your own game. But there's also these things that exist, these giant floating stone ships that can basically plane shift from the ethereal plane to wherever these places are. And you could also have the player stumble upon the Radiant Citadel itself by, like, maybe there's like an ancient ruin, they find one of these big stone ships, or maybe, you know, random magic. There's any number of ways to get here, but regardless, it's this huge place that exists on the ethereal plane that exists as kind of a beacon of hope. And they even say there's theories that when all the civilizations are found, this might reawaken a ancient weapon, or maybe this place was the last refuge from the first world that ever existed. Stuff like that. But the adventures themselves are actually pretty cool. They run the gamut from, you know, scary stuff to stuff that's kind of like a Chinese theme, very much get that vibe of the Forgotten City. There's like an underwater place, if I remember right. And there's even one that kind of has like this Day of the Dead vibe. And it's cool. Like, I think there's a lot of really interesting ideas here for Dungeon Masters, and definitely an interesting way to get your players out of the everyday place as they explore the worlds of Forgotten Realms, maybe Dragonlance, Mystara, Eberron. There's ways to integrate that here, like I mentioned at the top of this review, and I think that's where this really excels. This is kind of a neat toolkit, I think, to introduce some new civilizations to your game, add some more flavor as you populate your fantasy world with sorts of new, interesting places to go, see, and do. Do I recommend this? Well, I haven't had a chance to play any of the adventures, but reading through them, I think there's some really neat ideas. There's some cool NPCs from the Radiant Citadel themselves, and I could actually see this being quite a cool place to jump off for adventures. So journeys through the Radiant Citadel from Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition gets a definite recommend from me.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. Big thanks to Wizards of the Coast for sending that over. All right, guys, so let's talk about the things that happened around the big blue marble this past week. This is the Nerd News Network, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Okay, so this story comes courtesy of comicbook.com. I'm pretty sure JT would have some thoughts on this, as he's our comic book connoisseur. So, did you know DC has finally revealed the Joker's real name? And as it says, one of the biggest mysteries in the DC universe has finally been revealed. Joker is Batman's greatest enemy and one of the most popular villains in pop culture history. The character was even the focus of a feature film by director Todd Phillips and actor Joaquin Phoenix, with Joker becoming the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time. The Joker's identity has always been a closely guarded secret, with various projects and alternate storylines giving their version of the Clown Prince of Crime's birth name. However, the latest issue of Flashpoint Beyond may have given fans their most definitive confirmation of the Joker's real name yet. Flashpoint number 5 by Jeff Johns and a whole bunch of other people. The miniseries takes readers back to the Flashpoint universe that kicked off the new 52 era of DC and stars Thomas Wayne's Batman. The issue finds the Dark Knight heading for Arkham Asylum to confront the Clockwork Killer, aka his former wife and Bruce Wayne's mother, Martha Wayne. In the Flashpoint universe, Martha went down a dark path following Bruce's murder and became the Joker, pitting her against Thomas. Thomas locks himself in a cell with Martha as the police try to intervene, where Martha reveals she's learned the real name of the Joker from Earth Zero. Psycho Pirate, what a wonderful name, paid a visit to the Flashpoint universe, where Martha was able to interrogate him to learn about the Earth where her son lived to become a hero. Before killing Psycho Pirate, Martha forced him to give up Joker's name, which is Jack Oswald White. Joker was a failed comedian with a wife and son at home, and also worked cleaning bathrooms at the Wayne Casino. Jack is the same name as Jack Nicholson's Joker in the 1989 Batman film. The Jack Napier name followed Joker to other mediums through Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips' Joker deviated by going with Arthur Fleck. While Flashpoint Beyond takes place in an alternate Earth in the DC multiverse, it's possible Jack Oswald White is really Joker's true name, since many characters in the series share the same names as their counterpart on Earth Prime. This is a question I don't think we needed answered, personally. Especially because you look at the mythos of the Joker character, and one of the things that I read growing up, and I think I read this in a Wizard magazine, so that's going back quite a number of years. They said the fact that the Joker's insanity is ever growing and it's ever changing, that not even the Joker remembers who he is. And I think there's like a panel in one of the comic books. It might even be The Killing Joke, although I don't think so. I'm probably wrong when I say that. But he says something to the effect of, sometimes I remember it one way, and sometimes I remember it another way.
I believe it was The Killing Joke.
Yeah, and there's just something, I like that because it's ambiguous. You know the word I'm trying to say.
Ambiguity.
Yeah, it gives writers and artists and whoever's in charge of the book at that time the leeway to create their own creative path. They're not tied down to, for example, Bruce Wayne is Batman, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, Clark Kent is Superman, blah, blah, blah. It's not definitive. It's not laid down. It is not written down in stone that cannot be changed. I like that ability, and there are very few people in myth and media that I can think of that have that flexibility to their origin stories, and yet each is given its own power and weight to it. When you talk about the movie Joker by Todd Phillips, and you see Arthur Fleck's change to become Joker, that's an origin story, and that's fine. You look at the 1988 Batman movie by Tim Burton, that's another origin for him. That's fine. And their own separate and distinct with their own creative weight behind them, and they work. But here, I don't know, there's something about it when it's in the medium in which it originates that they want it to stick. And I don't know, Ken, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, honestly, this is pure comic bullshit. Like, comics, I love comics. I love the medium, but sometimes they do some weird shit, and this is pure weird shit where it's like one comic in a random spin-off of a random spin-off has revealed something that is completely superfluous and really has no reason to be revealed in the first place.
Yeah, like, and it feels so weird to cram it into like a mini series. Like, this seems like it should be its own thing, not just here's something random. And you had to involve Psycho Pirate, which is such a stupid name to begin with. It's, I don't know. Like, I mean, you're right.
Batman has a laundry list of really dumb villains.
Yeah, like, it's just, it's so unnecessary and goofy. And I am sure there has to be somebody out there salivating at this thing. And all right, cool. Now we know it. Now we can move into the true DC universe. And probably there is Zack Schneider fan, I would imagine. But it's just, I don't know. This is goofy. I think it's kind of stupid. I'm not a big fan of this. And it's just such a vanilla name. Like, now the Joker has a license at the DMV. This is stupid. Moving on to our next story, which is a little bit less stupid. This story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's villains are the bad school kids' new Switch hardware coming. Two professors, a true open world legendary Pokemon that can turn into freaking motorcycles. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are incrementally shaping up to be some of the most intriguing role-playing games of the fall. Today, the Pokemon Company made that even more clear with a new trailer that ran down the game's protagonists. Of course, a mainline Pokemon game can only break so much ground, married to form as they are. Scarlet and Violet versions planned for a Switch release on November 18th follow the monster gathering footsteps of their forebears. But every new iteration, Scarlet and Violet, marked the beginning of Generation 9, have pushed the envelope somewhat, and early footage has shown off a ton of firsts, including new Pokemon, a new realm, a new graphical style. For fans, it looks awesome, or at least fresh. It's blisteringly paced and runs through a ton of what players can expect from the game. As revealed in last month's trailer, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet casts you as an academy student. Today's trailer opens with a look at Mela, who runs the fire crew of Team Star, the school's troublemakers. Every Pokemon has a featured team and a group of ne'er-do-wells who always appear in the wrong spots and are just generally a nuisance. Team Star appears to be that for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but there are various segments of the team that are differentiated by type that could make the antagonist team far more interesting to fight against than in previous games. Typically, the enemy teams stick to the same old poison-type roster. The trailer also shows off some kinder opponents, including rival Nemona, an Elite Four member Gita, and its grass-type leader Brassius in action. And we get a good look at 3 new Pokemon: the giant rock-type Crab Claw, the fire ghost-type Cyrilege, pretty sure I'm not saying that right, and the fire psychic-type Armor Rouge. Also, the Nintendo UK announced a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet themed Switch and OLED model, and it's going to be out on November 4th, which actually does look really cool. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are the first games in the series to feature not one but 2 professors, the typical mentor NPC for the player characters. The first, Sada, all done up in orange, prehistoric-inspired clothing, and will appear in Scarlet. The painfully future Shikuturo, meanwhile, will headline Violet. The vivid red Corridon and deep purple Muradon, 2 legendary dragon Pokemon, will headline Scarlet and Violet, respectively. Rather than mere fierce monsters, you'll also be able to humiliatingly ride them by land, sea, or air. The most significant change, though, is the switch to an open world model. Historically, Pokemon games have been linear ROMs. You battle your way through 8 high-powered trainers called gym leaders in a predetermined order. Scarlet and Violet will let you approach them in any order you wish. My colleague, Sissy Jong, pointed out last month that this means for the first time, the 3 starter Pokemon will be on equal footing. Pour one out for the Charmander fans of yore, but also cheer for Quaxly, a fearless water-type duck who already has the entire Paldea region and the rest of the world stacked against it. And honestly, the duck is probably the one I'm going to take. I think this game looks actually really cool. And I read something else this week where you can have your Pokemon go out and do auto battles very similar to Pokemon Go. That's got my attention.
Yep. It's going to cut down on grinding a bit. And overall, like, the new Switch looks awesome. I like the graffiti style on the back of the Switch specifically. That's really cool. Overall, like, this game is shaping up to be the promise of what Sword and Shield was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing through Pokemon and Sword right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what this is the Pokemon Company's mantra, as it were, Game Freak's mantra when it comes to games. They do a concept, but they build upon it as the generation continues. So when it comes to, like, hardware generations, so with the 3DS, it's basically a reset. The 3DS was basically a reset. Same thing with the DS, and each single generation on a console upgrades a lot of aspects of it. Game Freak has a tendency to build on top of the same architecture. I don't think this is the case with Scarlet and Violet. I think there's some architecture still there to some degree with the engine, but overall, I think there's a lot more under the hood in Scarlet and Violet than there was in Sword and Shield. Also, just like a background thing, Junichi Matsuda, the original director, he has now stepped into a more mentorship role, and I think that's good because Junichi Matsuda is very old school and has kind of anytime he has directed a Pokemon game, has stripped accessibility features out of them. Most specifically the Let's Go games, where he said, screw anyone that can't use motion controls, basically.
But say, yeah, that was a game where I really liked that game, but I had to play it. I can't remember. I think I played it in handheld mode specifically, so I didn't have to do the stupid Joy-Con thing, which I don't know. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that. I'm actually playing through Splatoon 3 right now, and they start you off with motion controls, which is such a deterrent for me. I actually said out loud, I actually looked at my wife and said, if this is the way this is going to play, I don't know how much of this I'm going to play, because this is a pain in the ass. Thankfully, once you're past the tutorial, which takes you about 10 minutes, you can switch it to your good old controllers. You can turn off the gyroscopic aiming, which I don't know a single person who does this. And
there are plenty of, actually, some of the professionals, some of the actual pros that play Splatoon actually use motion controls, because it's a much more accurate aiming system.
I don't know. That's so strange, because like I come from the Call of Duty Halo mindset, and it feels so weird. And having a Pokemon game with like gyroscopic controls always came off to me as kind of weird. But I'm thankful that Pokemon, the new games that are coming out, Scarlet and Violet, it's got a bunch of accessibility built in. I think the idea of legendary Pokemon as motorcycles is a little goofy. But hey, you know what? I've been really getting into Pokemon. I mean, if you've been following my Twitter this summer, I play a lot of Pokemon Go. In fact, as me and Ken record this show on Sunday, I'm actually going out to a Pokemon Go event to go hunt legendary Pokemon Deoxys. And yeah, I'm that guy now. And I, like this looks fun. I'm hoping I can import my Pokemon from Pokemon Home into this. I can't see why they wouldn't. So this looks fun.
Pokemon Home, usually the way Pokemon games work, the home connection doesn't happen for the first like 4 months of when the game comes out. But one of the things that I did want to talk about is some of the other humans in the game that they showed off in this trailer. Tell me for a fact that they were not completely baiting fan artists with these characters. Like, yeah,
I saw some of that this summer.
So obvious. Like, just their designs, I'm just like instantly, well, I expect a flood of that art to hit everyone as soon as the game comes out.
Yep, and I saw some, don't know if I'd call it controversy around some of the characters this summer, but I'm thinking, you know what, guys, just accept it. It looks cool, and that's all that matters. It looks cool. It's a different representation, and I'm here for it. Party on. I'm looking forward to getting to this, and this is a Pokemon game I'm going to play from the very beginning and just stick with it. And I'm looking forward to doing my review of the game, because Alex has already promised me this will be the game that I get from Nintendo. Typically, me and him go back and forth on the games that are coming out from Nintendo. Like, he'll get one, I get one. Like, I did Mario Strikers, he did Live Alive and Xenoblade, which means I'm doing Splatoon, and I think we're both doing Mario Kingdom Battles, but we get that from Ubisoft. And I am doing Pokemon, which means he gets whatever comes after that. Doesn't matter what it is. But he did Pokemon Arceus this year, whereas I did Brilliant Diamond, which I really should get around to getting further into, but Pokemon Sword's just a lot more fun. All right, so moving on to our next story. This one comes courtesy of THR, otherwise known as The Hollywood Reporter. Defamation suit against Netflix over sexist remark in Queen's Gambit ends in draw. The deal comes after a court rejected the streaming giant's argument that it cannot be sued for defamation of real people in works of fiction. A legal duel between Netflix and, oh my God, Ken, please pronounce this name.
Nona Gaprinvashivli, I think.
We're just going to call her Nona for the rest of this article.
Yes.
A Georgia chess champion in the 1970s who says she was defamed in an episode of The Queen's Gambit has ended in a stalemate. The two sides on Monday informed the court that they had reached a deal. The Emmy Award-winning series, based on the 1983 novel of the same name, chronicles the rise of orphan Beth Harmon, who was played by Anya Taylor-Joy, to the top of the chess world. The show culminates in Harmon beating Russia's best players in the 1960s at a renowned chess tournament. But Nona took issue with a fictional chess commentator's line in the series finale that she alleged defamed her. The commentator said about Harmon, "The only unusual thing about her really is her sex. And even though she's not unique in Russia, there's Nona," and her last name, "but she's the female world champion and has never faced men." In her suit, Nona claimed that the representation that she'd never faced men is manifestly false, as she was being grossly sexist and belittling. She said by 1968, when the episode is set, she had competed against at least 59 male chess players and at least 10 being grandmasters. Quote, Netflix brazenly and deliberately lied about Nona's achievements, and that it's her last name here, I just can't say it, achievements for the cheap and cynical purpose of heightening, quote, the drama by making it appear that its fictional hero had managed to do what no other woman, including Nona, had done, quote, said the complaint. Thus, in a story that was supposed to inspire women by showing a young woman competing with men at the highest levels of the chess world, Netflix humiliated one real woman trailblazer who'd actually faced and defeated men on the world stage in the same era. The deal comes after a federal judge in January refused to dismiss the case. In a motion to strike Nona's suit under California's anti-SLAPP law, Netflix had argued that viewers understood the line was not to be true since, quote, fictional works have no obligation to the truth. U.S. District Judge Virginia Phillips rejected the argument that the streamer cannot be sued for defamation of real people in works of fiction. She found that Netflix acted with a, quote, reckless disregard for the truth, pointing to the shows referencing Nona by name and chronicling real people and events. She wrote, not only does this close the gap between associating the supposedly fictional character with the real person, regardless whether viewers recognize the plaintiff's name as indeed as some did, viewers may reasonably have believed the comment to be one of those historical details incorporated into the series. Netflix has appealed the ruling to the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which agreed to review the case before it settled. Alexander Rufus Isaacs, representing Nona, told The Hollywood Reporter, I am pleased that the matter has been resolved. Netflix and its attorneys didn't immediately respond to the request for comment. The resolution to this fight comes on the heels of another brewing battle in August. Rachel Williams, an associate of the New York City con artist Anna Sorkin, sued the streamer for defamation over her portrayal in Inventing Anna. Then there's all the court docs, and that's pretty much about it for that story. I never watched The Queen's Gambit. Kinda interested, but you can't say shit like this about real people because Netflix does have that caliber where it also has so many eyes on it that, you know, if you say something like that, people are just going to take it as chip truth and they're just going to believe it.
And also this suit has been going on for ever since The Queen's Gambit actually aired. Because like immediately after The Queen's Gambit aired, this suit came into being. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's so disrespectful of Nona's actual accomplishments. Like why would you say that? And I know you want to make the protagonist look cool and awesome and have the superhero pose at the end of the show, but sorry, this is history, this is fact. Like, I saw this thing there's a channel that I watch on YouTube called History Buffs, and they always do, and I think he did a video called based on true events versus inspired by true events. And I think of that when it comes to stuff like this. And I just finished watching the HBO series Band of Brothers, for example, and there's one character in that show, for example, who in the ending tag of the episode, this character says, oh, and this character was shot in the neck. They died in 1945, never having gone home to the USA. Well, actually, they died in 1968 and they went home. And then another person was being known as a as a coward. They were known as a foxhole Norman. Yet in reality, this guy was like decorated for the Purple Star, the Medal of Honor, and all these other things. And I'm saying, you can't do that to real people. And that's insulting.
It's weird because I'm just going to point this out. This series was written by men.
The collective groan.
That just immediately goes, oh, suspicious.
Yeah, like there are tons of talented women writers out there. Just, hire them. I'm sure you could take a pitch meeting or at least work in collaboration. I don't know. This is stupid. I'm glad it's settled. But of course, Netflix is going to appeal, because why wouldn't they? All right, so let's talk about the big Mickey Mouse shaped elephant in the room. You may have seen this past weekend. It may have dominated your social media feeds. Let's talk about D23. By the way, shout out to the guy who got the TikTok and the YouTube of the Rogers musical opening number. Actually, quick sidebar to this. If they did this show on Broadway, Rogers the musical, it would sell out every single night of its run. If they did this as an Avengers campus experience that you had to buy a ticketed event for, and maybe it only ran for like a week or so during the summer, people would pay for it. If you did this exclusive to a Disney cruise, people would pay for it.
Yeah.
Marvel stuff is stupid popular. The Hawkeye included this as their post-credit sequence at the end of that series. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've rewatched it. The Hawkeye, that song is on my wheelchair playlist on Spotify. I listen to the song at least once a week. Like, I love its cringe, it's fun. But if you told the Thanos saga in about, let's say, 10 songs, you could do it.
About a 3-hour show, 2.5.
And you could do something amazing. Like, I can only imagine what the Battle of Wakanda or the Thanos final fight might be. Like, can you imagine what the Thanos costume might look like for the musical? Because Loki's is essentially a guy in a top hat. But still, this would be so much fun. And I really think Disney and Marvel are leaving money on the table as a one-shot. I mean, even if they did this as like a touring show and only hitting major cities for like 3 nights, this would sell out. This would generate so much hype and goodwill.
I think it would not surprise me if that is on the pitch deck.
I hope so.
For Disney's theater division, like that's on the pitch deck.
I really hope so, because it's so much fun. But that's not what we're talking about here, folks. Okay, so these stories were gathered by Ken. I just watched the trailers, or about half of them, before the show started, but I got some thoughts on a majority of this. So our first story comes courtesy of Entertainment Weekly, and all the upcoming Disney and Pixar movies series showcased at D23 Expo. Grab yourself some popcorn, because Disney and Pixar have unveiled the upcoming movies and television series for the next few years. The studio presented an exciting look into their upcoming roster of animated and live-action family films, including Hocus Pocus 2, an Enchanted sequel, the highly anticipated live-action version of The Little Mermaid, and more at Friday's D23 Expo in Anaheim, California. In 2022, Hocus Pocus 2 comes out in just a couple of weeks. In the long-awaited sequel to Hocus Pocus, a teenager discovers she might be a witch on her 16th birthday. Naturally, she lights the black flame candle, and all hell breaks loose, literally, and brings back the Sanderson sisters back to Salem once again.
I will also note that Del Toro, one of the zombie character, is also going to be back in Hocus Pocus 2.
Yeah, that's Doug Jones from Star Trek, right?
Yeah, Doug Jones has confirmed that he is back, and they did film some stuff, and he's super excited about it.
Yeah, I just saw the trailer before the show starts, and he's like, but I'm a good zombie. And I'm thinking, okay, that's funny. There's a little wink and a nod to Binks the cat in the trailer. It looks honestly really, really good. And I think the director of the first one was Mick Garris, right?
No, the director of the first one was
maybe he's the writer I'm thinking of.
Mick Garris was the writer, I believe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the director of the first one was also the director of High School Musical. All the High School Musical stuff.
Like, this looks way better than it should. Yes, it's taken since the 90s to get this made, but I'm fine with it. This looks great.
A cult like Hocus Pocus is a cult classic.
I mean, one of the things we do in my household is on Halloween night, we watch Hocus Pocus and we watch a Christmas movie while we put up our Christmas tree, because we are those people and I don't care. The next one that is up on this article is Strange World. That comes out on November 23rd. The Clades are a family of explorers famously around the globe. However, stumbling upon a strange new world that's full of danger and adventure, the family will need to work through their differences in order to survive their most treacherous expedition yet. The cast includes Jake Gyllenhaal, Jackie, or I can't pronounce this name, Jacoby
Young White, yeah.
Yeah, Jacoby Young White, Dennis Quaid, and Lucy Liu. Oh, I've seen that trailer in theaters. Kinda. Yeah. I might see it if I got nothing else to do. Disenchanted, which is the sequel to Enchanted, that comes out on November 24th. That's exclusive to Disney Plus. Amy Adams and Patrick Dempsey reprise their roles in the sequel to Enchanted. Finds Giselle trying to navigate motherhood and living a quote normal life, but with a bit of magic. Maya Rudolph playing the villain. Classic fairy tale shenanigans ensue. Zootopia Plus, November 9th. The breaking hit film has become a series on Disney Plus and is set to lampoon famous movies and TV shows through Hollywood history. Get ready for The Real Housewives of Rodentia, So You Think You Can Prance, and The Godfather of the Bridge, among others. That looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks like a fun, like, short series of just like half-hour goofs.
Yeah, like, I think that'll be fun. If it's anything like the Monsters University series, I'm fine with that.
It's probably similar.
2023, we get The Haunted Mansion coming out on March 10th. What a weird time to release a spooky movie, but why not? Disney's spooky classic Dark Ride is coming to the big screen, quote, again, this time with an all-star cast, including Winona Ryder, Dan Levy, Hazan Minhaj, Jared Leto, Jamie Lee Curtis, and the iconic Madame Leota. Okay, sure, why not? The Little Mermaids, saw the trailer for this. We'll talk about that. Sticking with Disney's recent theme of making live-action versions of their animated classics, Hale Bailey is taking on the role of Ariel in the remake of The Little Mermaid. Judging from the newly revealed teaser trailer, Bailey will get to show off her phenomenal voice, making it all more painful to know that Ursula is about to steal it from her. The trailer looks cool.
Okay, so I'm going to give you some background in who's also in this movie. You have Javier Bardem as King Trident.
Cool.
You have Lin-Manuel Miranda working with Tim Rice to do a new song for the movie. And Lin is also working on reconfiguring some of the music of the original to work with Haley and all the other cast members' voices. You have our Ursula is played by, god damn it, what the fuck name shit. Shit. Brain. Now I have to look this up. Sorry. Okay. Sorry for you editing this.
Oh, that's okay. Nope, because it's going to stay in the show. I mean, I want to know who's voicing Sebastian. I want to know who's voicing Flounder and the stupid seagull guy.
Scuttle is being played by fuck. I remember this.
Sure you do.
It's in the back of my goddamn.
What's he been in? Quick.
It's a female Scuttle.
Oh, okay. What of What has she been in?
Cast. Melissa McCarthy is playing Ursula.
Okay, cool.
And Awkwafina is playing Scuttle.
All right. And she was in Shang-Chi,
and
right?
Jacob Tremblay is Flounder.
All right. I'm in. Why not? I mean, I saw some people in a local...
And Daveed Diggs is playing Sebastian.
All right. I'm fine with this. I mean, I saw some people in a local Facebook group, so take that with a grain of salt, kind of trashing this. But you know what? I saw about half an hour of the Aladdin remake. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I saw
the Aladdin live action is actually one of the better ones.
I haven't seen Lady and the Tramp, and I have that bad.
Just don't. It's that bad.
I haven't seen Pinocchio, and
even worse.
Oh wow, with Zemeckis no less.
Well, there's a reason it's on ThisWeekInGeek.
Oh. Which it's weird because you look at the caliber that came out of Chippendale Rescue Rangers, because that should have went to theaters.
Yeah.
But anyway, so moving on to our next theatrical one. This one is called Elemental. That comes out next June 16th. Elemental will take place in a city where fire, water, land, and air residents live together. The film from the Good Dinosaur director Peter Sohn, and it stars some people I've never heard of. Doesn't mean it's not bad though. Peter and Wendy, which is a Disney Plus. It has not been dated yet. Disney is once again opening up the vault and retelling the iconic tale of Peter Pan. The film will be live action. There's a poster for it. Looks fine. Win or Lose, Disney Plus, undated. Pixar is unveiling its first ever series with Win or Lose, which follows a Little League team on their way to the final. Will Forte is set to voice the team's coach. Great pick. I can't pronounce this name. Iwaju, undated, set in the futuristic Lagos, Nigeria. In this upcoming series is a love letter to the city, while also exploring concepts of classism and the status quo. That sounds cool. Wish comes out in November, inspired by the wishing star that was so prominent in Disney's earlier films. Wish takes place in the Kingdom of Wishes. Ariana DeBose will be voicing the movie's protagonist. And for anyone wondering, Alan Tudyk will be voicing a goat named Valentino, a nod to classic Disney films, and the movie will be a musical. All right, I'm in for that. There is some artwork released for it that does look pretty cool.
And also, there is footage out there of Ariana singing one of the songs in the movie.
Cool. 2024, so about 2 years away. Mufasa, the Lion King. In this prequel to The Lion King, it's revealed that before becoming king, Mufasa was actually an orphan, which is sure to create some tear-jerking moments reminiscent of old school Disney movies. On the brighter side, the film is going to be narrated by Timon and Pumbaa, so that's cool. Snow White, undated. Rachel Zellweger and Gal Gadot will star in the live-action retelling of the classic fairy tale Snow White. Zegler, will be portraying Snow White, while Godot will be taking on the role of the nefarious evil queen. Interesting casting, sure.
Yeah, actually, Rachel Zegler is a Jersey-born girl, so that's cool. And also, they just wrapped filming in London, I believe. So it's in post-production right now. It could be the end of next year, but it might be early 2024. But overall, like, this is huge. And a big thing about the Snow White story, it's actually really popular in Spanish-speaking countries. So casting a Latina as Snow White is actually really cool representation for that story. And also Gal Gadot as Evil Queen. Sure.
Yeah, why not? Then we have two more things. This comes out in the spring. This is Ello, which is in this coming-of-age comedy with a twist. An 11-year-old boy becomes the first human to make contact with aliens. The cast will include America Ferrara, who most recently starred in Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. And then finally, Inside Out 2, which comes out next summer, 2024. Amy Poehler is returning for the sequel to Inside Out. Riley, the original film's protagonist, is now a teenager, meaning she's going to experience a lot of new emotions, leading to a lot more humor and hopefully more surprisingly authentic and touching moments like the first film, which I haven't seen, but I know some of the big moments in it. So
Inside Out is my number one Pixar film.
I think for me, it was, what's the one that happens on Day of the Dead?
That is why is my mind blanking on that?
It's not Encanto.
Shit.
I know the songs from it. And I bought Blair some
I literally
dresses
just have to
from
pull. Just give me 1 second, pulling up my music library because I have it too. Let's see, soundtracks. Where are you?
I'd say Up and Wall-E are very much up there for me. Like, I remember watching Up with Blair and we were in the theaters. Obviously, if that first 10 minutes don't kill you. Coco, yeah, we love Coco.
Coco's great.
Actually, it's funny. My wife, who's a supply teacher, she she was watching this with her classes a couple of years ago, and she told me, she forbade me from watching this movie in my 40s. She's like, "You're not allowed to watch this movie until you're a couple of years away from your mother's death." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
okay,
yeah." And
then we watched it, and I'm thinking, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, like my top 5: Inside Out, Monsters Inc., Coco, Onward, and Toy Story 3.
Onward, I really enjoyed too. Blair didn't like it because it was so close to her father's death, but I thought it was a really, really, really cute movie. All right, so we also have a couple more things to talk about. D23. We're going to talk very rapid fire at some of these. So the final Andor trailer has just premiered, and that 3-episode premiere is on September 23rd. This looks cool, and it's already been greenlit for a second season.
They have a 3-year plan for the show,
and we're not going to see K2SO voiced by Alan Tudyk, although it would not surprise me if he pops up at the end of season 3.
They announced that he's going to be a part of season 2.
Okay. Oh, really? So they did change it. So okay, yeah, cool.
I believe he's a part of season 2. Like the plan was K2SO was not going to be introduced until season 2. I believe that was the plan. It was either that or season 3. I forget which.
I mean, either way, it's going to be neat to see how this all comes together, and to have a spy series that has no Jedi in it, I think is great. Because Mando, I love that series. Do not get me wrong, but having Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka in it, and now we're going to have Ezra Bridger in it potentially.
No, Ezra's going to be a part of Ahsoka.
Well, the fact that they're existing in the same timeline.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like you're going to have a lot of stuff kind of butting up against each other. Like Mando, I like the idea that it's more of the scoundrel type of the universe, more of the underworld stuff. So I don't know. But with Andor being like war, like the thing I've always wanted from Star Wars, and maybe I'll get it eventually, is like Star Wars Band of Brothers with like a clone commando unit. This is about as close as I'm going to get to a really super gritty Star Wars. I'm in for that. I love this idea. And I remember years ago people thinking Rogue One was stupid, and then it came out and people were like, okay, this is the best thing that's come out of the prequel or out of the sequel era. Because the sequel era movies, Force Awakens is okay. The Last Jedi, divisive to say the least. And The Rise of Skywalker is a movie that exists.
A mess.
And you look at Solo, which has its fans now, but definitely not
I don't hate Solo. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it wasn't what I wanted. I liked parts of it, but I didn't love it. And yet Rogue One gave me the Battle of Scarif. It gave me Jyn Erso. It gave me what I wanted. And I was very
gave us that really, really cool Darth Vader scene.
Yeah, exactly. So it was cool. That's what I wanted. And Mando scratched the itch that I wanted. Book of Boba Fett was, I think, pretty divisive. It had some cool moments, but narratively, it didn't need to exist, I think. But I'm glad Tamura Morrison came back. And another thing, I'm not even going to read the story because I can talk about some of these right off from memory. Tales of the Jedi, which is like an anthology series that follows Ahsoka and Count Dooku. I'm in for that Dooku shit.
Yes.
He is like my favorite bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Like,
it looks neat to see his curved lightsaber with a blue blade, him and Master Qui-Gon. That's cool. That is going to be something really, really interesting. I'll be curious to see what that brings to the Star Wars kind of universe. The next thing that we're going to talk about here is there's going to be a Bad Batch Season 2, which I think comes out in January, I want to say.
Early January. I'm excited for Willow.
Yeah, that looks cool. That looks way cooler than I thought it was going to. Yeah. Because everybody has their own fantasy series now. We've got House of the Dragon, which I still haven't watched. Rings of Power, which I hear some people hate it, some people like it.
It's not my jam.
I'm going to check it out once there's like 4 episodes and I can just kind of lay down and watch a bunch in a row. That's one thing in the streaming era. I don't like to watch week to week unless it's like a Marvel show, because with Marvel shit, you can't avoid the spoilers. Even hours after it ends, you can't do it. But for stuff like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones is another one of those shows where you kind of have to be super into it. House of the Dragon, nothing about it's really grabbing me. It doesn't help that Alex is like, I hate Matt Smith. So maybe that's the little voice in my ear. But I will check it out at some point. But Willow looks legitimately cool from top to bottom. What else we got? We also have Ahsoka, which is a live action series, which is still in production. Rosario Dawson, I heard some people still aren't happy with her, but whatever. We'll see what it's like. I want to see what stories they're going to tell in that, because now that they've cast Ezra Bridger, we've seen our first look at Sabine Wren, though we can't really see much. Cool. Skeleton Crew, which is an original show from John Watts, which will follow a group of kids stranded on the outskirts of the galaxy. It's still in early production, but Watts did show a new star from the show featuring Jude Law, surrounded by the same security droids, the ones that guarded the door in Jabba's palace, and let fans know it will take place in the New Era Republic post Return of the Jedi. Mando Season 3 looks very cool. Bo-Katan is still trying to take control of the Mandalorian throne.
It basically looks like Mando Civil War.
Yeah, which it basically is, because anybody who has the Darksaber has a claim to the throne of Mandalore. And with him holding it and her not, it's not going to end well for one of them.
On top of the fact that you have, the Mando's clan were the extremists of the Mandalorians and were very dedicated to the core of don't take off your helmet. And then Bo-Katan's part of the more liberal side of the Mandalorian religion, as it were.
Yeah, like it's going to be a really, really, really good show, and if handled very deftly, which I think it has been, I think it's going to be interesting. I hope they rely a little bit less on bringing in Luke Skywalker and shit like that. I mean,
given the way this teaser is set up, it's pretty much going to be mostly
Mando,
Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan versus Pedro Pascal's Mando.
Which is good. I'm all for that. I mean, I guess if you were going to bring in a classic character, if you really wanted to, you could, in theory, bring in Chewbacca if you really wanted to. I don't see why you would need to, but you could. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Also, we got Babu Frick back.
Yes.
Yay.
Looking forward to that. We got R5. We got Amy Sedaris. Is that her name?
Amy Sedaris, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her again. It's going to be fun. And Mando is always a hit for Disney. It's going to be a sad day for my wallet as I collect only Mando Star Wars Black Series. So still waiting on my Dark Trooper from May the 4th, but hey, I'll wait. Indiana Jones 5. I don't really care.
I mean, I'm interested because of it being directed by James Mangold, and also James Mangold also wrote part of the script for it.
Mm-hmm.
Salah's back.
I'm looking forward to
John
that.
Rhys Davies is back. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is coming in as maybe the villain. We don't necessarily know yet. They did show some footage. I expect that trailer to drop right around when Avatar hits in December.
That or Super Bowl.
I think Super Bowl's a little late, given the fact that this is coming out in May.
I don't know. I think
we might get like a teaser in December and then a full trailer in May. That's in Super Bowl time. That might probably be the case.
They also showed off more stuff from Wakanda Forever. I'm gonna see it. Sure, I'm not as into this, but the first Black Panther was surprisingly cool. So I'm getting to see Namor.
The first Black Panther is basically just completely like of its own ilk, and I think it's more interesting to see what we're gonna do post Chadwick's death.
That's the main reason I want to check this out, because I know some of the movie stars have been, we'll say, problematic, but it introduces the Ironheart character, which they did show off some stuff from that, which is going to be cool. That's something I'm looking forward to.
They also announced Anthony Ramos is playing the main villain as Hood.
So that'll be cool. They showed off more stuff from Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which I still hate that tag name. But that'll be cool. And they've basically said, this is the movie you need to see that sets up the Kang stuff. Which is cool. They're also I didn't realize this one was coming out so soon, like literally in a number of weeks. Werewolf by Night, which was a comic book that ran in the 1970s, I believe. Okay, sure. It's a 60-minute mini movie. Why not? It's a guy who's a werewolf by night, and he's infiltrated a group of hunters. Looks cool. We saw the first trailer for Secret Invasion. This looks interesting. I wonder how bad this is going to screw things up for the MCU. That'll be neat. They showed off a little bit of stuff about Armor Wars, which is going to be 6 episodes long. It's going to take place right after Secret Invasion. It's Don Cheadle's series. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder if I should say that out loud. Probably not. Somebody might get in trouble. But I'll tell you off air, Ken. Loki season 2, they brought out some people. I'm looking forward to this. Loki season 1 took me by surprise.
I love Loki season 1. And they also announced Huang Quan is coming in as a cast member from Everything Everywhere All at Once. And also we got that very, very wholesome photo of him with Harrison Ford backstage. That just warmed my heart.
Mm-hmm.
They took a little. The cast took a little break from filming over in London. Came over to Anaheim to just kind of talk. So, but the big casting announcement was Ke Huy Quan coming in to join the cast, and cool. Like, I'm happy that after all the stuff that man went through when he was younger, and leaving the industry, and now coming back in such a big way, like, you got one of the best films of the year, and now you're going to be part of the MCU. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. They showed off a teaser trailer for Echo, which Vincent D'Onofrio comes back as Kingpin. They also
officially announced that Mank Sheckman is directing Fantastic Four.
Yep, which is cool, though we didn't see any casting.
Casting yet.
I hope John Krasinski comes back as Mr. Fantastic.
From what I'm hearing, that probably isn't the case.
Oh, wow.
It sucks, but hey,
We got to see him turned into spaghetti, so fine. They showed off, or they talked a little bit about Daredevil Born Again. Cool.
Which starts filming next year.
They talked about the Thunderbolts, which is now confirmed as Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp, Red Guardian, weird pick there, Yelena Belova as the Black Widow, Sebastian Stan's coming back as the Winter Soldier, John Walker as the U.S. Agent, and Taskmaster from Black Widow will be basically the Dark Avengers Thunderbolts. A good way to describe these guys is think of them as Marvel Suicide Squad. I was kind of hoping they'd get Emil Blonsky in as the Abomination, but I like what they're doing with him and She-Hulk, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? And there's no talk of Zemo. Maybe Zemo's actually the guy they're facing off against.
Which would be cool. Because
Which would be cool. Like, Daniel Bruhl is the man.
Yeah, like in the comic books, Baron Zemo leads a group of bad guys known as the best name ever, the Masters of Evil. So hey, why not? It could be really, really, really cool. Captain America New World Order. The bad guy for that is going to be the leader. They're bringing back Tim Blake Nelson, who had a little bit of the Hulk's blood drip on his head, and it turned him into the big green-headed super genius who is one of the Hulk's longest running bad guys. He was, I think in the television show, he was voiced by Dr. Herbert West. Help me out here. Now I'm doing it too.
Yeah, I can't pull that either.
Wei Un from Star Trek DS9. Jeffrey. I can hear his name in my head. It's going to drive me nuts. You probably know who I'm talking about, though. You've seen his face. Shit. Now I'm going to look it up, Ken. Fuck you. Jeffrey, not Jeffrey Dahmer.
While you look that up, I'll continue. Director Nia DaCosta, Brie Larson, Iman Vellani, and Tatiana Paris concluded Marvel's presence at the panel with a brand new trailer for the upcoming Captain Marvel film debut of Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau after appearing in Miss Marvel and WandaVision, respectively. They showed some footage. We got a quick cameo from Nick Fury and Kamala's family, and it shows the three of them fighting what appeared to be Kree soldiers, no doubt scheming for a plan of revenge after being humiliated by Carol Danvers in the first film. I'm excited for this. Miss Marvel was a big surprise of how good it was and how it felt like an actual TV show and not a long movie, which is where I think Marvel TV should continue to go on. I don't like I think the long movie format split into chunks is not working for them overall. So here's hoping that the Marvels is good.
Yeah. And the actor I'm thinking of was Jeffrey Combs. One of the things that had come out about this, there were some quotes that had come out about this. They're not sure whether Chris Hemsworth says he's not sure if he's going to do another Thor movie. He's like, we'll have to talk to Marvel about that. Another thing that was kind of quoted, Brie Larson says how long she'll be playing Captain Marvel. She's like, I don't know. Does anybody want me to do that again? I think she was fine. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I thought it was a fine movie. I think of all the newest stuff I'm looking forward to the most, Thunderbolts is really, really, really cool because I didn't think we'd ever see something like that. Daredevil for sure. Echo, I'm very curious to see how they'll play that.
I mean, it's going to lead into Daredevil season, the new Daredevil show. So,
like, it's going to be good. I mean, I think the thing that surprised me the most was Werewolf by Night, how fast that's coming out.
Yeah.
Because we had heard nothing about that. Now, it would have been really cool if they'd shown off a sizzle reel for Marvel Zombies, but you're not going to get everything you want for Christmas. So maybe we'll hear something more about that at some point soon. We'll have to wait and see. So that's going to do it for...
The last big thing is they showed off Avatar Way of Water. James Cameron said, yeah, we're shooting 4 right now.
God, I so don't care. But we'll have...
I'm excited.
Well, I'm going to go see it, but I think the thing is with the Avatar stuff, to hit it when the iron was hot, it would have to have come out within 3 years of the first movie, maybe 4.
There's also just technological advancement stuff. And they also confirmed that Stephen Lang's character is indeed reincarnated Avatar character.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. And on that note, we are out of here. I've had enough of this. So we will be back, guys, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. So we last went to the Radiant Citadel, but we're going to stay inside. We're going to lock the door. We're going to play some PlayStation games. We're going to take a look at what my thoughts are on PlayStation Premium. We will be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Hey guys, Mike the Birdman here, and once again, I'm taking a look at some stuff that you may want to consider if you are going back to school, or if you're just, going to college or university for the first time. Well, I'm here to give you a couple of ideas, and today I got something sent kind of cool to me from Sony here in Canada, and I'm talking about PlayStation Plus Premium. So this is the subscription tiered system for, PlayStation Plus, not just the ability to play online, but this is basically competing against Xbox's Game Pass service. And what you get here is similar, but also different, if that makes any sense. The thing that really sets this apart is the ability to stream a lot of PlayStation 3 games, actually some really good ones in there too. Ones that I took particular note of were all the most recent Castlevania games. You could get a lot of really good Street Fighter games, including Third Strike, Street Fighter 2 HD Remix, which is one of my favorites. Weird ones like Bionic Commando. You can also get Ashura's Wrath, the infamous games Ratchet and Clank. So that's pretty cool, but there's the keyword streaming, but I'll come back to that. Plus you get the stuff for PlayStation 4, you get PlayStation 5, and having games like Ghost of Tsushima alone makes this worth it. So I did try the game streaming out, and I tried it in the most competitive and hardcore environment that I can think of, and that's a fighting game where you literally live and die by frames. And I wasn't expecting a perfect online experience. What I got was passable, but to a fighting game player, new. Now I do get that these are older games, but they're also being streamed at the same time, and I have the highest commercial grade internet for where I live, and I stream really fast, and I was noticing lag. I noticed hits that should have connected, stuff like that. But again, that's because I was picking a fighting game. If you were doing something a little more casual, you're probably a little bit better off there. But you can definitely tell, if you're going to be game streaming, you need really high speed internet, and you definitely don't need anything that is going to throttle you in terms of that. Plus you get a lot of Resident Evil games there. That's something I should probably kind of mention, and it's nice to see some of these games on the service. You are getting PlayStation 4 games, really good selection there. A lot of ones that if you didn't play the first time around, you can definitely do that now. The PlayStation 5 selection is really impressive. You get Death Stranding, I'm pretty sure I saw on there. Returnal just came. The Final Fantasy VII stuff. Seriously, this is a fantastic time to own a PlayStation 5. But you're probably asking, but Mike, what about the cost? Well, I'm glad you asked. So as of today, I'm recording this on September 11th, 2022. It's about $140 for a year. That's pretty close to what you'd be paying for Xbox Game Pass. I think Xbox Game Pass is better in terms that you can download these games locally, but I think PlayStation has the better narrative focused stuff. As much as I love Halo, that's not enough to shake stuff like Demon Souls or Ghost of Tsushima or Final Fantasy VII. honestly, if I want a better narrative experience, I found myself coming to PlayStation more often than not, and I was a major Xbox fanboy for many, many, many years. So that's a very different 360, you might say, in terms of my opinion. So yeah, PlayStation Plus Premium, I do like it. There's a lot of really cool things there. Plus, there's a lot of older PlayStation 1 games too. I was happy to see stuff like Tekken 2, Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut. I'm hoping they put the original Resident Evil 2 and Nemesis on there. That'd be really cool to see. Some older Final Fantasies would be great. I think there's a lot of room for their PlayStation 1 stuff to really grow, if they can. And I'm just hoping to see this service continue to evolve. In the ideal world, we'll be able to download PlayStation 3 games, but I guess there's something in just how those games were programmed. You just can't emulate it, but you can stream it. So, I don't know. It's probably some tech mumbo-jumbo that Alex understands, but I don't. Right now, I'm going to say, if you have really good internet, it's really good to check out their PlayStation 3 catalog. Their PlayStation 1 catalog, it is continuing to grow. The PlayStation 5 catalog is outstanding. And there's a lot of good stuff. If you didn't play it the first time around on the PlayStation 4, now's a great time to do it. So yeah, I do think this is relatively solid for most PlayStation users.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
We are back here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and you should have heard what we said off air. Even Lag is back. King Koopa is back. Get fucked. I'm Mike. He's Ken. Let's talk about some weird shit that happened around the world this week. All right, so our first story comes courtesy of NintendoLife.com. The Nintendo Switch is more profitable than vinyl, CDs, and DVDs in the UK. We know that the Nintendo Switch pretty much dominates game and hardware sales most of the time. But what about when we compare it to other physical media? Well, it turns out, in the UK at least, that not only is the Switch the most profitable gaming format in the country, but it's even more popular than other media and entertainment. GameIndustries.biz Chris Dring has shared sales figures from the ERA and GfK on Twitter that might shed some light on just how well the Switch is sold in terms of revenue compared to vinyl, CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray. Despite a drop of 12.5% compared to last year, the first 35 weeks of 2022, the Switch made a staggering 88 million pounds, and it just goes on. That's a pretty big figure, even with vinyl's pretty substantial jump compared to last year, making just under 81 million pounds. The record business is booming and is knocking on Switch's door. Of course, this isn't based on units sold and was given that video games on Switch hardware cost more than vinyl, CDs, and DVDs. So this perhaps isn't too surprising, but it's still a little fun fact. We wonder if first-party titles often being full price also helps give Nintendo the edge here. And what if Nintendo started selling vinyl records, which it should for its game soundtracks? CDs and DVDs both selling over 65 million pounds worth is also pretty interesting. But like the Switch, both have seen a drop in profits over the last year. And Sony's PlayStation, both 4 and 5, are very close behind vinyl profits, so perhaps things will flip next year if the console shortages continue to improve. Can't say I'm totally surprised by this, because when COVID really hit hard a couple of years ago, and it feels really weird to say that phrase out loud, the Nintendo Switch was impossible to find for quite some time. Like when my Switch died during the middle of COVID, replacing mine was a hectic ordeal, to say the very least. So I can't say I'm surprised that it's selling this well, but the fact that vinyl caught up so fast, like it's only short by, like, according to this chart, about 8 million pounds.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And the PlayStation 4 and 5 are at 79 million pounds. Like that, like these numbers are really close. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm glad Nintendo's experiencing its most interesting console generation in a very long time since the Wii. And I don't know. I mean, I like my Switch, but I get a better gaming experience out of the PlayStation 4 and 5. It's not saying Nintendo doesn't have great games. It does. Like, I'm having a hell of a time with Splatoon 2. You couldn't tear me away from Fire Emblem, the Three Hopes, a couple of weeks ago. And this is something completely new. So I'm really glad this is going well. I mean, with games like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Dread that came out, Animal Crossing is still selling remarkably well. I know Mario Kart charts consistently. And with its booster pass, then Nintendo Online Pass. I would love to see Nintendo's Online Pass compared with PlayStation Premium and Xbox Game Pass, just to see where it kind of sits. So, yeah, so we got that story. Moving on to our next story. This is interesting. And I think we're going to be seeing the Fantastic Four show up sooner as opposed to later. This one comes courtesy of Space.com. I'm pretty sure Ken found this story. Astronauts' blood shows signs of DNA mutations due to spaceflight. You know, the same thing happened to a group of 4 astronauts in the 1960s. They later became the Fantastic Four. The researchers stored astronaut blood for 20 years to see short space shuttle flights affected spaceflyer health. Astronaut cancer needs careful monitoring, concludes a study that stored spaceflyer blood for 20 years. All 14 astronauts in the study from NASA's Space Shuttle program had DNA mutations in blood forming stem cells. A Nature Communications Biology study August 31st concluded the mutations, though unusually high considering the astronaut's age, was below a key threshold of concern, however. While the study is unique for keeping astronaut blood for so long, the results are not show-stopping. Rather, the researchers suggested astronauts should be subjected to periodic blood screening to keep an eye on possible mutations, and it should be considered in context. Another 2019 study, for example, found that astronauts are not dying from cancer due to ionizing space radiation. Monitoring programs will nevertheless be crucial as NASA reaches for long-duration deep space missions through its Artemis program on the Moon and later human excursions to Mars. The new study team said in a statement, the new study and the 2019 cancer study both largely considered short-term duration mission astronauts. The term decided that to pursue the new study in light of the, quote, growing interest in both commercial space flights and deep space exploration, the potential health risks of exposure, the harmful factors that are associated with repeated or long-duration exploration space missions. Study lead author Dr. David, good luck pronouncing this one, Gokaskin, and cardiology professor Mount Sinai said, sorry, I got confused there. NASA recently changed its lifetime radiation requirements for astronauts that critics said were discriminating against women who had historically lower limits than male astronauts. To date, other genders have not been disclosed in the agency population. The researchers found that a higher frequency of somatic mutations in the genes of the 14 astronauts considered in the study relative to the stats for the population who have been to space. The space cohort flew between 1998 and 2001 on shuttle missions for an average of about 12 days. Roughly 85% of the group was male, and 6 of the astronauts were on their first mission. Researchers collected whole blood samples from the astronauts twice, exactly 10 days before spaceflight and on the day of landing. White blood cells were collected once and 3 days after landing. The blood samples were then left untouched in a freezer for 20 years, chilling at minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 80 degrees Celsius. The somatic mutations seen in the genes were less than 2%. However, those individuals who breached the threshold face more risk in developing cardiovascular disease and some forms of cancer, the statement said. The presence of these mutations does not necessarily mean that astronauts will develop cardiovascular disease or cancer, but there is a risk, however, over time, this could happen through ongoing and prolonged exposure to the extreme environment of deep space, the science or one of the lead researchers had said, and I can't pronounce his name. I am not surprised by this, actually, just because when you explore space, one of the things I don't think a lot of people really understand is to give an example of this. When you think about people going to space, people automatically assume we have shields, we have the ability to protect from radiation, we have stuff that'll protect us from harmful cosmic rays. That is not the case. We don't have energy shielding. That does not, that is pure sci-fi bullshit. And the best way to insulate against this stuff, certain metals can do it, but water is actually the best insulation against this type of stuff, like a good layer of water. And you're not insulating a spacecraft in that. You're not going to bring that up into like going from here to Mars. Is it possible? Yeah, sure. But just the economic costs, the technology is not there yet. And there are radiation spikes all out in space. You can get hit by cosmic rays, solar flares, any number of different deep space anomalies that we frankly do not understand yet. And it's something that does have to be considered for any long-term habitation on these other worlds. In fact, actually, one of the things that just happened in my hometown recently here in Guelph is we sent barley seeds into space to see how they would be affected by the zero-G environment. And I'm going to have to bring that story up here on the show sometime soon. But space colonization, are we on the doorstep of it? Yes. But there's a lot of considerations that we need to think. In fact, my sister is actually writing a paper when she was doing her master's degree about space law and space colonization. And what does that mean? Well, who holds authority over space? If someone is born in space, well, what nation do they belong to? What laws are applicable to these? Like, there's a whole social angle to this as well. And when it comes to long-term exploration, there is so many factors to consider. When me and Aaron were talking about mining the asteroid belt, that's possible probably in the next 100 years, but we're going to have to capture a near-Earth object first. But that means people being in space for a really long time to mine these asteroids and to bring them home. And if, genes are mutating, I can't say I'm surprised in the very least. And I want to believe we will escape the big blue marble and we will explore the solar system, but we need technology to advance first. So a little less reality TV and a little more people pioneering in this space. And I'm not talking Elon Musk, because the hell with that guy, but we need more scientists. We need more eyes on this. We need more funding, because the more money we put into the space program, the more stuff we see come out of it. So hopefully we'll see something interesting come out of all this, and hopefully nothing terrible. So this story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com, and this one is really weird. So GameStop is accused of wiretapping customers without their consent. A suit has been filed in California accusing games retailer and NFT clearance clearance house GameStop of recording conversations that customers have had with the company's support service, then sharing the secret transcripts of those wiretaps with a third party that boasts of its ability to harvest personal data. The class action lawsuit filed by Miguel A. Lasira in a federal court and first reported by Bloomberg says GameStop covertly wiretaps the communications of all visitors who utilize the chat feature at GameStop.com and shares the secret transcripts of those wiretaps with a third party that boasts its ability to harvest personal data from those transcripts for marketing and other purposes. Defendant neither informs its visitors nor obtains their prior and express consent in these intrusions. The key here isn't that GameStop is recording customer data and sharing it with another company. It's that the company is accused of doing so without gaining the consent of its customers. This would be a violation of California's Invasion of Privacy Act, or CIPA, under which website operators cannot create transcripts of visitors' conversations or provide such transcripts to third parties without obtaining prior express consent from all parties to the conversation. Lucia's lawyers argue that compliance with CIPA is easy, and the vast majority of companies comply with the law by simply notifying website visitors of their conversations are being recorded. The suit continues. Going from bad to worse, defendant shares that the secret transcripts with Zendesk, a third party that publicly boasts about its ability to harvest highly personal data chat transcripts for sales and marketing purposes. Rather than merely providing a software service, defendant allows Zendesk to intercept and use the secret transcripts. Given the nature of the defendant's business, this, website visitors typically share highly personal and sensitive data with defendant. When using the website chat feature, customers would be shocked and appalled to know that the defendant secretly creates transcripts of those conversations and shares them with a third party. Defendant's conduct is both illegal and offensive. Yeah, that's pretty not fucking cool, because Zendesk powers a lot of chat functions.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, what? Like, I get that you want to harvest data. I get that. But this could have been so easy as just a pop-up that says, by agreeing to use the chat feature, you agree to use this and know that your data may be shared with a third party for X. And then you could opt out of that. Would it reduce the use of the chat function? Probably. But probably not enough that it would be a big dent, because anybody who deals with customer service, 9 times out of 10, you're probably calling somebody and you agree to that consent anyway, but you don't know what type of data is being harvested during these chat conversations. I mean, they're going to ask you your home address, your order number, stuff like that, but you don't know if they're capturing anything else in the background.
Yeah. It sucks for the people on the ground level with GameStop, because it's clear corporate has no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Like it's so
and even
bizarre.
Reggie Fils-Aimé has made statements when he was on the board. He's like, okay, what the fuck is the plan? And they had no plan. And that's why he left, because he was like, you have no plan. You're just winging it.
Yeah, like, it's so weird. Like, there's nobody in charge of game stonks right now, literally, who knows anything about the gaming industry other than like, hey guys, we got to sell more PlayStations, we got to sell more Xboxes. And because I'm able to get into GameStops more frequently now, because my wheelchair can get into them, it's 90% toys and merch and crap, which for me, honestly, all right, that's kind of cool. I'm glad I can find a place to buy my Transformers now. But at the same time, you're a game retailer. You should know what you're doing, and doing shady stuff like this isn't endearing you, and pushing this NFT crap when you tried to do that, nobody cares. In fact, we covered a story, I think, Ken, the last show you were on. No, that was JT. We talked about NFTs. Nobody cares. There's like less than like 10%, and I know OpenSea's trades are down ridiculously. Like, I don't know.
Like, and then don't get me started on the whole stuff going on with Game Informer, but that's a whole nother ball.
Yeah, like there's just so much mismanagement at GameStop, and of course we're just speaking as fan commentators. What do we know? But I can tell you from working in the industry for 15 years as a journalist, as a reviewer, and as a talking head occasionally in the media, I can definitely tell you there is no clear direction in terms of what they need to do. And I'm not going to pretend I'm like Michael Pachter. I'm pretty sure he doesn't bat very high these days whenever he makes a prediction. I can tell you that decisions made are stupid, and you should be avoiding these conversations with people. And if Zendesk is indeed doing this, could you like kindly fuck off forever and not do that? But I know you're not going to, because money is the one object everybody wants, and it's the one thing everybody will go out of their way to get, is to collect your personal data in however way they can, and it's always going to be some tricky legalese bullshit. So let's move on to something a little stranger, because Ken, let me tell you, I've got the perfect Christmas present for you, and it's going to be sitting right next on your family's fireplace mantle, I'm sure, for generations to come. This one comes courtesy of TMZ.com. How, Ken, would you like to own Ty Cobb's dentures? Well, let me tell you. So Ty Cobb's dentures have hit the auction block. Both his top and bottom false teeth. Ty Cobb T206 is the holy grail for collectors, but for as much as the card is worth up to millions, about 50 reportedly exist. Now, if you're looking for something truly unique, there's another piece of memorabilia that recently hit the block. Cobb's dentures, his actual false fucking teeth. SCP Auctions currently has Cobb's chompers, top and bottom, on the block, along with the original plaster denture holder and brass opening device. After Cobb's death in 1961, his teeth were preserved by Ty's biographer Al Stump, held the teeth for years before unloading them at Sotheby's in 1999 to the current consignor or whatever, who held the dentures for over 22 years. And of course, Cobb was one of baseball's first stars and a real problem at the plate. In 1909, he won the Triple Crown, the AL MVP in 1911, and was a 12 times batting championship. Cobb averaged .366 and had 4,191 hits over his 24-season career. Cobb was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936. Speaking of Cooperstown, in June 2001, the teeth went on display at the Hall, where fans were able to view the one-of-a-kind item. The auction, which ended on Friday, I don't know how much they went for, already has a nearly 10,000K bid. There have been 7 total. And talk about a conversation piece. Good luck. I actually should see if these are still going. Let's see if let's see if I can find them. See how much they went for. Final price. The auction closed yesterday. There were 12 bids, and it looks like the final price, including buyer's premium, went for $18,840. You could have bought a new car for this.
Yeah.
Or you can buy Ty Cobb's fucking teeth. Jesus, this is stupid. But hey, why not?
Sports fans are just as weird as nerds.
That's right. And if you want to order the same teeth I'm sure he picked corn on the cob out of, you could have done that for about $19,000. And this is a local story for me. This one comes courtesy of news outlet CHCH. The Ontario Provincial Police investigate $50,000 worth of hamburgers stolen near Guelph. Ontario Provincial Police are investigating after $50,000 worth of hamburgers were stolen in Puslinch, a town south of Guelph. Wellington County OPP received a report on Monday of a theft from a yard near Brock Road South. Investigators discovered unknown people entered the yard around 3 a.m. and stole a 53-foot semi-trailer. Police recovered the trailer in Mississauga, but the quarter-pound beef patties were missing. Anyone with information should obviously call police. How in the fuck are you going to unload $50,000 worth of hamburgers? Like, you can't exactly hand these out at a barbecue.
I don't freaking know.
I mean, it's so weird to think about, like, that much meat, because, okay, so first things first, you're going to have a place to store these. That's over a 50-foot trailer worth of hamburger. How did you unload them? I mean, there must be a black market for meat, because I know on this show, we've covered the theft of chocolate, we've covered the theft of dildos, we've covered the theft of maple syrup, and we've covered the theft of cheese. Somebody has an awesome party planned at some point. It's so bizarre, and that's just the way Guelph go, I guess.
What's next? Beer?
I have heard of that. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. So before marijuana became legal in Canada, or at least in Ontario, there used to be a really popular brewery in Barrie, I think it was. Or it was either Barrie or Brampton. I can't remember which. Either way, there was a huge marijuana grow op literally right off the side of the highway. Like, we're talking millions of dollars. Millions of people pass by this place every day. And no idea. But hey, that be Canada for you. We are certainly a people who know how to party. And our final story this week comes courtesy of Variety.com. I'm watching this show right now. I'm loving every minute of it. The Boys creator Eric Kripke tells toxic fans to stop watching the show and eat a bag of dicks and fuck off to the sun. You might be wondering, well, why is he so mad? Well, I'm glad to tell you. The Boys creator Eric Kripke slammed the show's toxic fans after cast member Erin Moriarty came forward and revealed she's been the subject of misogynistic and harassment online. Moriarty has been a series regular on The Boys for 3 seasons and plays the superhero Starlight. The actor wrote on Instagram that backlash to her character from toxic fans left her feeling, quote, silenced and, quote, dehumanized. Hi, trolls, Kripke wrote on his own Twitter page in reaction to Moriarty's statement. 1, this is literally the opposite of the show's fucking message. 2, you are causing pain to real people with real feelings. Be kind. If you can't be kind, then eat a bag of dicks, fuck off to the sun, and don't watch The Boys. We don't want you. Moriarty's original post calling out the backlash included the following message. I do, quote, feel paralyzed. I put blood, sweat, and tears into this role. This does break my heart. I've opened up a vein for this role, and the misogynistic trolling is exactly what this role would speak out against. The actor concluded the post by writing, this has only strengthened my empathy muscle, and to anyone who comes at me, I see you. I don't hate you. I only empathize and forgive. Kripke is one of the several members of the Boys family who have stood up for Moriarty following her post. Co-star Jack Quaid wrote to her, love you, Erin. We're all here for you. You're such an incredible, talented force of nature, and I consider myself incredibly lucky to know you. Keep shining bright. Leave the trolls to us. We got your back. Support you and what you say here. 100% well put. Your work on the show is and always has been stellar. You are beautiful inside and out. Keep shining. Added Anthony Starr. The Boys is available to stream on Amazon Prime, which I really recommend you do. Yeah, I mean, I don't get online hate, and I know this recently happened with the Lord of the Rings Rings of Power show. They're upset because there are black elves, and I know like 4 of the original cast members of the Lord of the Rings show were like, Middle Earth is for everybody, and it's supposed to represent medieval Europe. I've got news for you, folks. There are people of all different shades living in Middle Earth and all over medieval Europe. Just kind of got to deal with that.
Yeah. And also
yeah.
Just like there is a lot to unpack with the people that watch The Boys. Like the idea that there were a lot of right-wingers that got really upset this season because Homelander is the bad guy. He's always been the bad guy. You're just too stupid to realize it.
Yeah, it's like, guys, he's not someone you should look up to. I mean, Starlight, I mean, even Billy Butcher, who, you know, that character, he's got some flaws in him too. Like nobody on this show is a great person except maybe her. And, you know, like I'm watching season 1 right now and I'm seeing the crap that she's kind of going through. And there is a big story. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. In fact, this will be the only thing we're going to talk about it. Is speaking of misogynistic, hateful trolls, you already know what story I'm going to talk about for 2 seconds here. Good. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Good.
Yes.
As to what happens next, Anonymous doesn't like you. Good. And with that, we're going to conclude this edition of The Weird News here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We're going to have a review from Alex this week, and then me and Ken are going to talk about what is coming up here on the site and the show coming up here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We will be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Alex here, finishing up my extended summer vacation with a review of 1883 from Paramount. They sent a review copy of the Blu-ray set of the show over, and what's interesting is this is a show that I followed when it started to air, because I know there was a lot of buzz around it. I didn't see the initial premiere, which I believe had a preview event on cable TV as well as Paramount Plus, and it was... if I'm not mistaken, I think the largest viewership for a cable television premiere since like 2015, which was pretty amazing, you know, considering, you know, the general decline in viewership on all television fronts. So to get a big pop and a big, huge, viewership for its first episode, that was something telling. I'm not usually a big Western fan. In fact, nobody in my family are big Western fans, and to that extent, I didn't know. I actually had to ask, my family, like older people, like my mom and my grandmother, who these people were that were in it. Like, they're like, supposedly some famous country and Western singers are in this, and it ends up being Faith Hill and her husband Tim McGraw, who I just thought were good actors, and it ends up being that they're big country people. And again, sorry for any listeners out there that are the big country listeners. It's just not a genre of music that anybody in my entire family, and I mean entire extended family, ever even listened to. The closest we got was my mom bought, I think, one Shania Twain CD, that one CD that everybody bought. But, that being said, that I went into this sort of blind, so I didn't know the celebrity connection. The biggest celebrity connection I had to this was when I saw that Sam Elliott was in it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Because, I've seen some Western movies, but not a lot of TV shows. It's just not usually a big genre that we're into, but I do know Sam Elliott. So, I ended up watching this, and this became like almost the water cooler show. It's been a while since we had a show like that, like Sopranos, Game of Thrones, especially since one that was on like cable TV, or in this case, a fairly new streaming network in Paramount Plus. So, this show captivated me when I watched it in streaming, and then now watching it on Blu-ray with a significantly higher bit rate. There's so much detail in it. So it chronicles the Dutton family as they are traveling west, trying to get to the new promised land, the new frontier west, where they can maybe make their fortune, or just have a nice plot of land, settle down, and be a happy family in Montana. And all the trials and tribulations and craziness and stuff that happens in the travel west through the Oregon Trail, which I did play that game growing up in school, and that is all you really need to say about how trouble and how much tribulations they're going to have going out there. Now, this is it's a limited series, but it's a full length season. It's not like some of those limited series where it's like 3 or 4 episodes. You're getting a full season's worth out of this. You're also getting a bunch of features. There's a bunch of behind the scenes, like making of documentary features that are of quite high quality in here. They're really worth watching. There's A Land of Peril and Wonder, The Journey of 1883, From Cast to Cowboys, Creating the Pioneer Spirit, 1883, The Road West, Inside 1883, and behind the story for each episode. So you get a pretty in-depth look at every production aspect of the show. It has some of the highest production values I've ever seen for a television show. There are pretty much movie production values, and being that it was, for the most part, other than like a preview event on regular cable, it's on a streaming network. It's unrestricted by content, so there's language, there's adult situations, there's violence, there's everything. It felt like you were watching a movie every single week when episodes were dropping. So it's pretty darn good. It's 10 episodes. I can't think of any episode that wasn't significant or good. There's guest appearances in here. Billy Bob Thornton. There's Tom Hanks in an episode. It's a prequel show to Yellowstone. Now, Yellowstone, I had seen initially season 1 when it was airing on cable, and then I went through the box set that we were sent for review of the first handful of seasons. So this takes place, obviously, 1883, before the events in that, and we're seeing on Paramount Plus and on the Paramount Network that this franchise is sort of springing out and branching out into different eras to showcase the families, the world. It's pretty cool to do that. Like, I don't think we've seen that happen before with a Western, at least not in like 30 or 40 years, where that many branches spin off of a popular Western style show, or in this case, with Yellowstone being a modern, Western drama. This is a period piece that is of pretty much the highest quality. I don't think I've seen a Western show that I like more than this. So you don't need to have seen the Yellowstone show to actually get this. Because it's a prequel, you might get like hints of things here and there, but you can watch this as a complete standalone or as the entry point into the series and franchise. And it has fantastic music, and it's got great intro music, which is always great for me because I'm always a big fan of a show. If a show has a good intro and good song, that's what makes a show for me. I might be old school that way, but it just is. Fantastic acting from everybody on here. The set design, the costumes, the directing, the action, the drama, everything. It's one of the best shows on television right now. And you can watch it, obviously, if you have the streaming network, if you have Paramount Plus. But if you want to watch it in the best quality right now, the bitrate is so much better, obviously, on a Blu-ray, that you can pick it up. It's on a 3-disc set. They don't compress the discs too much or anything. So you're getting a significant quality bump up from streaming. There is also a DVD set available 4-disc. We did not review that, but that is obviously if you don't have streaming. Let's say you've got a grandparent that doesn't have streaming and doesn't have a Blu-ray player, but they're big into Westerns and they don't like the dramas. You can probably go ahead and pick up the DVDs and you'd have a safe bet that they'd have a good time with that. But for everybody else that has modern players and modern disc players, you probably want to go with this set. I'm interested to see what they are going to do with the franchise moving forward because you can see the seeds being planted for what would become Yellowstone in this. And I think that there's like 3 or 4 other shows in the works, but this is a great starting point if you're looking to get into the franchise.
All right, guys, we are back here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Ken, thank you so much for coming out here on the show. Without you, JT and Aaron, this summer would not have proceeded as smoothly as it has. I've had so much fun doing the show with you. And I'm looking forward to just doing more as the year continues. You're going to be joining me and JT on Future Imperfect, which that's the first time the 3 of us have ever been on that show together. Yeah, so that'll be really fun. We are going to be talking about time travel movies, and we're gonna obviously you think of movies like Bill and Ted, Back to the Future, and The Terminator, but there's other stuff like Project Almanac. We're going to talk about Looper. We're going to talk about just time traveling movies in general because some of the rules make sense, some of them don't. I mean, with Avengers Endgame coming out the last couple of years, it kind of made an interesting point about time travel, and we will talk about that as well. In terms of other things we're going to be doing, me and Aaron will be talking about cryptids and cryptozoology on a Future Imperfect that'll be coming out later this week. I'm sure, I guess since we just did musicals, Ken, that means we should probably do another loose cannon, and I'll be in touch with you over the next few days, and you and I will pick something really, really, really easy, and we'll do that later on this week. Other than that, though, it has just been a really, really good time here on the site. I hope you've enjoyed some of the reviews we've covered this week. I know I have some more D&D stuff. I've got some stuff from Free League Publishing. I've got a Star Trek thing I got to talk about. In fact, I'm actually going to ask Aaron because I know he designs the ships. We'll talk about Utopia Planitia. So I'm ambushing him right now. I'm going to ask him about that. And other stuff. If you happen to live in Southern Ontario, coming up this week, there is the Guelph Jazz Festival. I'll be going down to that, which should be a lot of fun. There's Guelph spoken word poetry. So your boy's going to go out there and slam this week. I'm actually really looking forward to that. I'm going back to the Guelph Storm on Friday, September 23rd versus I think the team we're going to be playing is the Mississauga Steelheads. I have never seen this alliteration of a team play before, so I'm looking forward to that, going back to the Sleeman Center. If you happen to live here in Guelph, come out and say hi to me. This is something I really haven't talked about here on the show, but because I've been so high profile in the media in the area over the last couple months, I've had so many people come up and talk to me. like literally stop me on the street, go, "Hey, you're Mike, you're from the newspaper, you're from TV." And I'm like, "Hey!" And like, I talk with people. And in fact, yesterday, I met one of the girls from my private D&D group, my friend B. I met her for the first time. I've never seen her face before. She came over, she met me and Blair, and it was just such a wonderful time. And I don't know, the more time I spend here in Guelph, the more this place feels like home. And I've moved around so much in the last 20 years. It's nice to put roots down in a place and really be involved in a community that I really believe loves me back. And I don't know, I mean, it's different than anything I've really experienced before. So I'm looking forward to some awesome live music, some fantastic junior hockey, and just meeting more people. Oh, and that reminds me, at the end of the month, I'm going to be doing fire keeping for the local indigenous community. I'm going to be doing some of that at one of the parks around here. I mean, look at my Twitter. I'm sure I'll mention something about it. I'm going to have my full turtle shaker, which is made out of a real turtle shell that was ethically sourced, so people don't get mad. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, Ken. I'm in a good damn mood, and it feels really, really nice to say that for a change.
Yeah. As for me, we got the My Hero Academia rewatch series is going to be wrapping up in the next couple weeks. We are midway through season 4, and we've got a whole nother season and 2 movies to talk about there, as well as we've got the planned September return at the end of the month. We are talking Vermel in Gold, which is a series that is currently airing right now on High Dive, as well as we're going to be talking about the upcoming anime season in October, which includes a whole bunch of sequels, some big high-profile stuff. It's going to be a jam-packed fall for anime. And we'll be pretty much back in full production starting at the end of the month for this anime.
I just had a really good idea, because you know what? You were batting 2 for 2 when we did a loose cannon on unusual musicals, which should be coming out really soon. Alex has it scheduled. I want you to pick me 2 movies, anime movies that I can stream on Crunchyroll or wherever. I want to see some romance. That is your homework this week, and that's what we're going to talk about on Loose Cannon. Anime romance movies. I'm feeling the love, and kids are going back to school. Maybe you'll feel some love too, because hey, that's how I met my lovely wife, was in college. Maybe you'll find your sweetheart, your husband, your boyfriend, whoever you feel. Maybe we'll talk about that. So anyway, folks, that's going to do it for us here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. So until next time, we have been
Ken from This Anime.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other and go out there, do something great this week. I'm sure it's going to happen to you folks. So we will catch you guys right here next time, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.